Hey everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm Jessica McCabe. I'm the creator and host of the YouTube channel How to ADHD, which I started in 2016 as an online toolbox that's research-based. And it was basically just a place for me to put all the stuff I was learning about my ADHD brain and strategies that could help me learn to work with it, not against it. And today I am joined by three amazing people who have also really found their niche on YouTube and been incredibly successful at it. So let me introduce them. First, we have ASMR Glow. Thank you so much for coming, Glow.
Hi.
Tell us about your channel a little bit.
So I've been making ASMR videos for 4 years now. If you want to know what ASMR is, I always describe it as a type of meditation with sounds and visuals. Yeah.
That's a neat way of looking at it. Yeah. Okay, perfect. And then we have Vanessa Hill as well of Braincraft. Thank you so much for being here.
I'm excited. I loved your channel, Jess, and I have been watching it for years. So it's really exciting to be in a panel discussion with you.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was checking out your channel, prepping for this, and I was like, okay, we need to collab. We have to do this.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we also have Annisa Lamara. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi.
I'm really excited to talk to you as well.
I'm so excited to be here.
Awesome. So yeah, we have 45 minutes. We have lots of questions, and we will also have a chance to talk to audience members as well. So since we only have 45 minutes, let's jump right into questions. The first thing that I'm really curious about is how you got started in your niche. And I'm going to start with Annisa because I know you have a really fun story about this.
Yeah. Wow. So long story short, a bad haircut, y'all. A really bad haircut. I've always had really big hair, and I went natural back in 2005. And before going natural was a thing. If you don't know what going natural is, it's basically like not having relaxer in your hair anymore, wearing your natural curls or however your natural hair is. And after 7 years, I was like, you know what? I think I want to start over. I had a lot of heat damage, and the lady just like chopped all my hair off, y'all. Chopped all my hair off. And so I started documenting it on Instagram first. And my sorority sisters was like, your hair is so beautiful. It's getting big. And it was growing like weeds. And so I was like, oh, well, I already have a camera because I was an art student. I had just graduated with my visual art degree. So I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess. So I just started it with the wash and go, which is basically like you wash your hair, define your curls, and go. It's not a wash and go. It takes quite a long time. And yeah, it just started from there. I didn't think that it was going to go anywhere. I didn't really have any intention when I started my YouTube channel, which was in 2012. And so I was just like, we'll just see. And then I started to make more videos and started to get more features, and it just took on a life of its own, and here we are now. I don't have my hair out today. I have a protective style. I have some cornrows. So yeah, it's been really fun. I've learned so much about just being in the community, really kind of like honing in on what I want to talk about, my hair type. We talk about everything from curls to flat iron. I even get into inspiration. I get into motivation and self-confidence, because it takes a lot of confidence for years for someone to tell you that your hair isn't good enough. And then you say, no, my hair is good enough. And so that takes a lot of guts and confidence and courage, especially when it wasn't a thing back then. So I'm just really excited to kind of like still be in there, but still kind of like making my own lanes now. So yeah,
that's awesome. So I'm sure it's really inspiring for other people. We've all, I think, had bad haircuts. We haven't all started a whole movement because of it. So that's really impressive.
Yeah.
So Vanessa, how did you get started talking about the brain?
Yeah, so I was actually working in science outreach. So I'm sure everybody has had that experience, like when you're at school and someone comes around with this big liquid nitrogen show or a chemistry show where they blow things up and that kind of thing. So I was doing that, and it was in Australia, and it involved a lot of driving, right? Like I was driving literally through outback Australia for hours on end to get to one school or one classroom. And that is super important. I think that people who are out, who live in the country, have someone come in who is a specialist to speak with their class. But personally, I was like driving all day to reach like 20 students. And I was kind of thinking, is there a different way that I could do this? Could I put lessons and things like that up online? So I had started to see some science education type channels on YouTube, but it was still pretty niche at that time. So I just started uploading videos and they started getting views. And I'm sure like everyone here has had that experience where things kind of went from there. But over time, I kind of came back to what I had specialized in at school, which was psychology and making videos about the brain. And a lot of my videos focus on research, but how we can use things that we have found out in research in our everyday lives. So like, what is the research behind motivation and how can we be more motivated? How can we form better habits and use those to lead a healthier life? And how can we look at what has been studied in procrastination to help us actually get our work done every single day? So I try to have a look at what people are studying now, and I sometimes interview scientists and feature them in my videos in fun ways. Like last year, I got a scientist who had won this like very prestigious award to play Twister with me and included that in one of my videos. So I do lots of things like that to kind of bring them into it as well. And yeah, I actually started Braincraft in 2013. So it blows my mind that I've been doing it for over 7 years now.
Yeah, so that's a long time to be in your niche. But it sounds like you found something that you were kind of already doing, you were already interested in it, and you wanted to have a greater impact, so you moved it online. That's really neat. I think a lot of people watching are going to be in that camp as well. Sometimes it's something inspires you to do something totally different. Sometimes it's like, how do I do this more effectively? So then I'm really curious, Glow, how did you get into ASMR?
So at the time, it was like, I was in high school, I think, and no one really knew about ASMR. It was like part of the dark side of YouTube. And it was like really like at home videos, you know, kind of raw videos. And the first time I came across it, which is I think the same thing for a lot of ASMR viewers, it made me laugh a lot. I was like, this is really, really strange. But then I noticed that it was so relaxing when I was watching it. And then I went through a phase where I couldn't sleep for like 2 weeks. And then I went back to it. I was like, okay, let's try this. And then it really, really helped. So I just like grew to really, really enjoy it, to like go to sleep with it. And then in 2016, I think, there was a big void sort of to be filled in the niche in ASMR, because I felt like I could bring something to it because there wasn't a lot of diverse content. And so I was like, my brother was like, why don't you make videos? And I was like, nah, I could never. Everyone would make fun of me. But then I did it, and here we are.
Which is brave, because you're right. I've watched ASMR videos, and at first it's like, what is this? And you feel a little like dirty for listening to it. You're like, is this okay? Exactly. Like a little weird? But yeah, it does work. It does work. So and a lot of people swear by it. So that's kind of neat. You found something that you found personally helpful, and there wasn't enough of it and you saw a place where you could add something to the niche. Which is really neat. We all have kind of different stories there. For me, I just was struggling through life with my ADHD, and I just completely, nothing was working in my life. And I was like, you know, I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was 12. Like, maybe there's something more to this diagnosis than I realized. So I was like, why don't I learn about it? And I just did it completely to help myself at first, and other people found it helpful. So I started doing it too. So let's see. I know what it means for me to have a community of fans that are invested in that niche. And for me, it was really healing. What was it like for you to build your own community of people who are interested in the niche that you specialize in? Let's start with Vanessa.
I guess mine has been enjoyable in a way that people have found my content so helpful. So I get a lot of emails from people saying that they watched a video that reframed how we should approach happiness, and that we should try to be content more so than being happy. And I'll get emails from people saying that they have changed their worldview, or they have done something differently in their life, or it might be something really small that they've changed. So I think that when you can see your videos having impact like that, it's very motivating, right? Like, it makes us feel good and makes us want to keep doing that. And I think I was generally just surprised that so many people were interested in science research and things coming out of research, right? So that was really cool for me.
Science communication is a thing that I didn't know about until I found out that that's what I was doing. I don't know if it was the same for you, but science communication is so important right now because there's all this research and we know all these things, but it's really impossible for most people to understand what that research means. And so I think people really need that right now. I'm glad that you're doing that.
Funny. I was actually in a biology lecture in my second year of university, and someone came in and they were running this one science communication subject, and they gave this pitch for it at the end of the lecture. And I was like, wait, you can be a writer or you can be a film producer or something, but you can do that about science, and it's called science communication. And that was the first time I heard of it, and I took a class in it and I loved it.
That's awesome. Yeah. I'm super into it too. And okay, so let's see, Glow. What's that like?
So because at first it was so niche and so, a secret kind of community, I didn't expect for people to be that interested. So like I posted videos but not really thinking about it, and then like it just like exploded, and suddenly you have that insight into a whole new world because there's so many people who just like share the same like they just love ASMR, so you can communicate. And a lot of my subscribers made friends in my community, and the amount of emails that I get telling me that it helps them, like from people of all kinds of backgrounds, or from all walks of lives, and it's just kind of mind-blowing. I think like being on YouTube, you don't really realize it because it's most often it's just like you see it as numbers, but then when people actually communicate with you, you're like, there's actually like people behind that, and it's kind of mind-blowing. Yeah.
So it's a kind of cool opportunity to connect on a level with things that people don't normally talk about it, right? Like ASMR doesn't usually come up at a dinner conversation, but on your channel, people can find each other and talk about something that they're really into. That's neat.
Exactly. They can talk about it like in their daily lives and stuff. So it gives them a platform. That's great.
Yeah. What about you, Annisa?
Well, hair is universal, right? Like as a woman, we all have like things that we go through with our hair. And so to break it down even further, as a Black woman, I think building the community within the natural hair community, and at the time, it was still a budding community. It was still, a lot of people, there wasn't a lot of information. There weren't as many brands. There weren't as, many tutorials as they are now. And so it was honestly learning as my audience was learning and as my audience was growing. And to Glow's point, when you start to get messages saying, you encouraged me to leave my boyfriend and shave my hair off and and do me, like that to me is amazing, because I know for a long time, I've gone through a lot with just like not accepting myself and struggling with my hair. A lot of Black women, we were told that our hair is too curly, it's too kinky, it's too this, it's not professional. And so even in your family members, I know when I shaved, so I was natural. I had really long hair when I first started my channel. And then I tapered it off like 2 years later. Then I shaved it all off and dyed it blonde a year after that. And I was like, oh, I'm not going to have no more followers after this. I don't have any hair on my head. And my family members, even my mom, like she's probably going to kill when I say this, but my mom didn't even talk to me for like a couple of days when I shaved my hair off, because hair in the Black community is such a big thing. It's such it's like this crown and glory, especially if it's long. There's like this complex or whatever. So when I shaved my hair off, I felt so liberated. And when I realized that that story reached the women that were following me, they became more than just numbers. You know, it was more so like relationships, and we would have conversations, and I try to respond to every comment, every DM, every message, because I feel like they're taking the time out to tell me their stories. And I want to know, like, it's a conversation. And I think hair is a big, big conversation for Black women. Like, it's a thing. And so, like, having someone outside of you, like, it almost makes you feel like it's bigger than you. Like, it's more than just hair. And for us, it is more than just hair. It's a political statement sometimes, you know? So just kind of like seeing that and hearing all the stories, and before COVID just like ruined all of our lives, going to events and meeting some of these women and getting like really big hugs and like, oh my gosh, I love your hair. Oh my gosh, you like inspired me to, you know, try this hair color and to try this style, and, you know, hair twinsies. Like, I get a lot of that, like, oh, we're hair twins. So it's just really, it's inspiring to me. Like, they're saying that I inspire them. It's inspiring to me. So to build that community has been amazing. I call them my love bugs. I'm like, hey, love bugs, I love you guys. And so it's just, I don't know. I'm getting a little teary eyed because it's just, I don't know, like that sense of pride and womanhood is amazing.
It sounds like you've given people a lot of validation, and they've helped validate you as well to be who you are and to do what you want with your hair, not what other people think that you should do. And I get to see those kinds of stories with my community too. People feeling a lot of shame about how they are in the world with their ADHD, and feeling the pressure to be like everyone else, to be neurotypical, and finding a community where it's okay to be more like themselves and to not like mask and not have to pretend to fit in a box that they don't fit into. Has been really, it was validating and healing for them, and it's validating and healing for me as well.
For sure.
But I'm sure you all know, sometimes it can be hard to like stay in a niche and feel the pressure to like keep putting content out that is specific to that niche. Ooh. I'm curious if anybody has ever tried to branch out and do something completely off brand for themselves. And if so, how did that go? Has anybody done that?
Yes.
Yeah. I feel like I've done it too frequently.
Okay, I want to hear about that.
Go ahead. I can kick it off. We're all good at doing an awkward silence.
Okay. We're all just like, yes, we remember these things.
Yeah.
Vanessa,
you know what I think is funny is how we think we're branching out of our niche, but to someone from the outside, it might not look that way. So I'll give you an example. I made a documentary in 2016, and normally my videos had been about psychology or neuroscience, and they went for like 3 to 5 minutes or something like that. And this was a 45-minute documentary on the ethics of gene editing, which is so random. But basically it was on designer DNA. And like, if you could edit your DNA so you could be stronger or taller or look different or not have a disease or something like that, would you do it? And it was exploring this new technology, which actually just won a Nobel Prize a couple of weeks ago.
CRISPR, is that what you're talking about?
So I did. Yeah, it was about CRISPR. Yeah, it was one of the first documentaries about CRISPR. So I made that, and it was with grant funding where I had to put it on my YouTube channel. And I was really excited about it, and my audience liked it. But I actually think that it did hurt my channel in terms of the analytics, just because it was so long, it was a different format, it was a different topic. Like, some people were clicking on and leaving, and it sent bad signals to the algorithm. So it's one example, and I've made other things that have been different topics, and I feel like every time my audience, you know, they're quite nerdy. Like, I'm a huge geek. We can all geek out about some other area of science, and that generally they like it, except overall it sends bad signals to YouTube about my channel when I've done a deep dive into the analytics after. So that has been my experience with branching out.
Do you feel like it was worth it? I think a lot of people are curious.
Yeah, well, I think every time that I have done this, like, professionally, it's been worth it, because I think, like, I've been on YouTube for over 7 years now. And if every single week I was making the same 3-minute video, like, I I wouldn't be doing it anymore. I would be so bored. So I think for us to continue to grow as creators and as professionals and as people, we need to try different things. So from that perspective, yes, even though I know it's bad, I would do it again.
That's awesome. I think that's really good to know. Yeah,
it's
Annisa.
definitely worth it. Like when you said that, I was like, yes, ma'am, it is. I'm actually in the process of doing that now. And the great thing is a lot of my followers or subscribers follow me on social media. So they follow me on Instagram and Facebook. And so I actually just moved into this space about 4 months ago now. And so I was documenting or am documenting how I decorate my space and how I shop. And, you know, I'm a plant mom, as you can see. So it was resonating with, a lot of people on my social media channel. So I was like, well, let me see what it looks like on my YouTube, because listen, there's so many, like I can't do any more twist outs. Like there's so many twist outs, grayed out. I mean, y'all, and I feel like you may have to find like a balance, because there are still people who follow your channel specifically for what you said you do. They don't care if it's the same twist out that you did year after year after year. They don't care. But I'm like, okay, y'all, we got to find a little happy medium. So I try to kind of like do lifestyle, maybe inspiration, and then hair, or kind of like talk about hair, or kind of like get into anything that's new going on with my hair. I was growing my hair out. And so it's much longer now. So I'm like, okay, let's talk about that. Just kind of like mixing it up, because, and she was saying, you can only stay in one box for so long until you get bored. The majority of your audience gets bored. And I know specifically for this industry, it's changing and it's very saturated. And I don't care about any of that, because I feel like whenever you're walking in your purpose, whatever you do, whatever you decide to do, like it's going to make room for you regardless. So that's not the issue. I think the issue is that kind of like, there's more to me than my hair. I love plants. I love to decorate, and I love to, make things look pretty. And I have my own creative agency. So I want to kind of show more of who I am. I think your community, when you build those relationships, they want to see that too. They want to know more about who you are, within reason, because people can get real nosy. And as far as like the analytics, I don't be caring. I really don't care. I'm like, this is my channel. This is my thing. I do what I want. And I feel like whoever doesn't like it, the people who will appreciate it, they'll come. So that's kind of like how I look at it. And it's really fun to kind of like do a different type of video and to do all this work with your place and then show it, because because people can't come over now. So I'm like, I want people to see where I live. So, I think it's fun. I think it was definitely worth it for sure.
Yeah. So things that you're interested in, chances are your audience might be interested in it too. And it's still tangential. So Vanessa, that was still sciencey. And for you, Annisa, it was still about self-expression. It was still about leading the life that you want to live. And it wasn't, may not have been about hair. It was more about like the living room and the plants, but it's still permission to be you and to express yourself, which I think is cool, because it's tangentially related, but different enough that you don't get bored. Yeah. What about you, Glow? I saw you as the devil recently, so.
So I really think, and I noticed that recently, it takes a long time, and like it takes building trust with your audience to be able to sort of branch out and them coming there with you. Because at first, the first 2 years, I think it was sort of harder to branch out, because I was doing things that were a little bit ambitious, that were like kind of different. And they were like, not too sure I'm going to watch this. So they weren't clicking. But then I progressively got there as the years went on. And I think because I sort of like gained their trust on my normal content, and like built that thing of like, my normal content, you like it. So like, let me show you something a little bit different, but that you will still like. And so like it took a long time. It took probably 3 or 4 years. And now like they're willing to watch more like diverse content. So yeah, for example, a devil.
That brings up a good point though, because you have your niche, but that niche can be as wide as you want it to be. And so if people are just looking for pure ASMR with no anything else, then they can go to somebody that's going to stick to that only. But if they want somebody who's going to entertain them and do fun things every once in a while, different things, then now that's your niche. You're just widening your niche a little bit, which I think that's really cool. And like maybe at first people are like, what? But eventually they come to expect that from your channel, right? So
Exactly.
Let's see. So I want to ask really quickly, and then I want to figure out if anybody has any questions in the audience, and I'm not sure how to get those from you. We'll find out. But in the meantime, I will ask, how do your fans support you? So I know, Annisa, you said you don't worry about analytics. How do people support you?
You mean in terms of like
financially, like how are you able to do your channel?
Yeah.
Do you know, books or merch or?
Yeah, so with my channel, obviously analytics are important. So I do a lot of sponsored content. So I'd have a lot of brands that reach out to me, especially hair brands that I still do hair videos for, especially brands that I really love. And I try to make sure that I work with brands that I really love, that because I'm relaying this information for them to try. Like they're eventually going to try it. So I want to make sure that I love it and that it's authentic to me. And that way I'm able to support them in whatever they decide to buy. So that's a pretty big thing for brands to come out like, hey, we have this new collection or we have this new launch, or so it's a lot of sponsor content, and they're able to support me that way. And then I also have my actual website. So I have my blog, and I am launching merch this summer. So I'm really excited to kind of like get them onto my own platform, because, YouTube could go away, Instagram can go away, but AnisaLamar.com is going to stand. So having something that you own, like your own intellectual property, is very, 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 very important. And although YouTube isn't my primary source of income, like it's kind of split right now. With doing influencer content, and then with my creative agency, it's kind of like half and half right now. So it kind of gives me the freedom to kind of like figure out how I want to move within my channel, figure out, how many campaigns I want to do that month. And I actually just did my first furniture brand sponsor, and I was just like, oh my God. Oh, it was a proud moment, because I'm like, I've been wanting to do that for a very, very long time. And
I think that's a successful pivot, right?
Yeah.
You pivoted and you have a sponsor backing your pivot. You've done it.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
I was just like, oh my God. And I love their pieces, and my audience loved it. I wasn't sure how they were going to react to the first video that I did. And so I was like, oh, they actually like it. So it's a really great way for me to kind of like learn how they can support me while I pivot. So it's kind of like definitely a win for me for sure.
So sponsorships, which is cool, like furniture. Did they send you furniture? Like
they
actually send you?
That's so cool. The little ottoman
well
behind me. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Man, I'm in the wrong business. Can we swap? Flo, what about you? How do people support you?
I think what people underestimate the most is just views. Just like watching the videos and like keep having like the notification bell on, and just maybe watch the ads. That's pretty I guess simple. It's harder for ASMR, but just like watching ads, and if there's, I have merch, but I don't like promote it a lot, because well, if they want it, it's there, but like mainly it's just really watch videos and watch ads, because videos, like, you participate in the algorithm, you push the video into the algorithm, so it helps others see it and like the content be more out there. So it's definitely that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So basically watch your content and watch the ads. Yeah. And that, by the way, also helps with brand deals. I know, because brands will pay based on how many views you're getting. And so the best way that people can support your work is to watch, right? Cool. What about you, Vanessa?
And engage.
And engage with the content. Yeah, that helps with the algorithm as well.
Comment, likes.
And also just adds to what we're trying to accomplish, with building the community and all of that. It's helpful when people comment, because it adds to the conversation too.
Yep.
What about Vanessa?
I have such a mix of different things, and I think that's because my view count isn't off the charts. And being a niche channel, some niches have 5 million subscribers and some have 200,000 subscribers, you know? So I think that you can exist at different ends of that spectrum, just depending on how you run your business, essentially. So in terms of YouTube, I get like a little bit from AdSense, a little bit from some sponsorships. I get consistent income from Patreon, except it's still not even enough to pay my rent, you know? So I'm kind of like taking bits and pieces from all of that. But probably the main way that I make my money is quite similar. It's through a creative agency. So I produce videos for other people. I produce videos for myself that are featured on different streaming platforms. I've hosted TV shows in Australia, so different bits of media work and some consulting work in that area as well. So it's funny because I started doing that stuff because my YouTube channel was popular, and then I started making more money off that and less money off YouTube. But now I kind of need to keep up my channel because it's the main like marketing tool that I have to get all of that other work. So it's all very integrated in this weird way now.
Yeah. And for me, it's through Patreon. I have a Patreon page and I ask people to donate so that I can make sure all my content is free for everybody. And we get so much support on Patreon now that I'm actually able to hire more people and we're able to do more cool things. So it's really nice. It's really, really just, there's so many ways to support your favorite creators and so many ways to find support if you are a creator. It's really great. I'm going to get to the live audience questions. So I'm seeing several questions that are basically the same thing, which is just what's the best way to get started in a niche channel? What advice do you have for somebody just starting out on YouTube? And, how do you let your niche market know that this exists without like spamming with hashtags and stuff? Do you have any advice for somebody just starting out with a niche channel?
That's hard. I feel like
I would say the first thing is just do it, because a lot of people get really wrapped up in being perfect about it or having like 1 million views on something after the first week, and it takes time. So just be persistent is my number one piece of advice, and be consistent with your uploads as well. A lot of us here can probably attest to the fact that we had to do it for a year or over a year before we actually started breaking through in different ways. The second piece of advice that I have is that niche communities exist all over the internet, whether that be on YouTube or Reddit or Instagram. So I think you need to find a way to tap into that community. Like you should be a part of that community, comment on other people's videos. Yeah. That's really important. Send people emails, like go to conferences or cons in that area. So just become really involved in that community, and don't be afraid to reach out to some of the larger creators in that community if you have a great idea for a collaboration for their channel. If there's something you can offer them, like find a way to really embed yourself in the niche.
Yeah. So be part of the community, first of all. And a great way to do this if you're on Twitter is just every day, search the hashtag, like search hashtags for your niche, and like follow 25 people and retweet 5. Just start getting to know the content that already exists. And then, do reach out to other creators if you do feel like you have something to offer, right? If you just started out and you're reaching out to somebody with 500,000 subscribers, very likely it's not going to be a fair trade, right? But if you're like, oh, I have a great idea, it'd be super easy for you, and they only have twice as many subscribers as you do, then that might be a good thing to do, because that way you can benefit each other, which I think is really key. The collaboration on YouTube is really impressive to me. Glow, do you have any advice?
I think for example, ASMR is a lot on Twitter. Like the community is a lot on Twitter. So the way I notice newer creators now is just they sort of reach out to me. Like they engage with my tweets, and I can like sort of engage with them and know that they exist, and I know that they're in the community. And this engagement, maybe like fans will notice it and be like, oh, who's this new person, So you can reach out to like bigger creators. And also a lot of people ask me like, how do I start making a channel? And I'm like, just take your camera, sit down and do it. Because like if you start overthinking it, that's what I did when when I started, I was like, no, this is not good enough. But no, I remember I completely deleted my first video and redid it. And then I was like, okay, like whatever, let's just post it and see how it goes. And it just like exploded like overnight. And like you never know what can happen. And since it's a niche, people usually always sort of find ways to find your video. I don't know how to say that, but like there's always someone who's going to listen. So like you might as well just do it, sit down and see how it goes. Because if you overthinking, then it's never going to happen. You're never going to film that video and put it on.
Yeah. What about you, Annisa? Any advice?
Yeah. I think my biggest piece of advice is to just do it. I remember my first video, it was on like a regular, like old Canon T3i, and I didn't have any lighting. I just used my little lights in my room, and I made a really crappy video with the black sides on the thing, and I used Microsoft Video Editor, like terrible. But I did it. And I only had like 43 views. And I was like, okay, well, at least someone saw it. And then after a while, I was like, oh, people are actually starting to look. And then as I were saying, like engaging with your community, especially with the natural hair community, there's so many beauty pages. There's so many natural hair pages. There's so many brands. So really kind of like tapping into engaging with the brands and like commenting, and whether it's on, and it doesn't have to necessarily be on YouTube. Like you can kind of look at the community on other platforms, and Twitter is a good one as well. And really start engaging and starting create. And what I would do, because the first brand that reached out to me was Carol's Daughter, and that was like a year and a half after I started. And they found me because I would talk about their brand all the time, like all of the time. So whatever you want people to see, or whatever you want brands to see, get their products, shoot it, talk about it. And you may not necessarily get like sponsored deal, but you're still in that space. You're still in that hashtag. So making sure you're using the correct hashtags, making sure you're engaging with the community, and just like, people aren't going to just send you free stuff. Like you have to kind of like start and do it and kind of like get inside of that community, and then it's going to grow from there.
Yeah. And by the way, another good reason to engage with the community is you can see where there's something missing, right? You don't want to do the same thing as what is already being done, because it's already being done. You want to say, okay, like there's this kind of content and this kind of content, you know, there's a lot of channels about this, but there's not channels about this under these conditions, or there's not an ethnic voice that's talking about this, or there's not, whatever it is. Like for me, it was there's a lot of information on the internet about ADHD. There's a lot of research, and nobody's doing video. So I started doing video, and all that. So there's one more question. This one's specific to Glow. So somebody wants to know what sort of age range likes ASMR.
It's very wide, but mainly like knowing my analytics, it would go from 18 to 34, I think it is. Yeah, but there's also children and old people. I mean, it's super wide.
It's all over the place. But with your YouTube analytics, I'm curious, Vanessa and Annisa too. What about you? Like, who tends to watch your channel? What's
my
the
channel is
range?
very evenly. So let's just.
Sorry, I know. I just said both at once. So Vanessa.
I was gonna say my channel is around my age range, so it tends to be like from 25 to 45 is the sweet spot. I do get a little bit younger, especially girls going off to college, and a few older women, but typically like millennials and a few like Gen Xers, and like I don't know the people above like the millennials, but like some of those women. And I know like the majority are women, but I actually do have a pretty decent percentage of men as well, like a bigger percentage, like maybe 10%. And so, because there are a lot of men who grow their hair out and they want to, I'm sorry, those are like gnats from my plants. They want to, they're growing their hair out too, or they're, trying to get their skins together too, or whatever it may be. So, I'm finding that like some men are like coming up into the space too, which is really exciting. Like I like it. Like I love to see men in the space as well.
And then Vanessa, and then I'll ask everybody to give like one like final piece of advice because we're nearing the end here. If you have one thing that you could ask people to take away from, you know, in terms of advice or how they could support or whatever it is, any final thoughts? So Vanessa, who watches your channel and what's your advice?
Sure. So my age range is from really 18 to 35. Like it's split evenly across those two demographics. And my piece of advice is embrace yourself. So Jess hinted on about this earlier and said this earlier, but everybody has a unique perspective to bring to something. And that might be for an educational channel, like what you studied. For any other channel, it could be where you live, what kinds of things you have access to, what culture you're from, whatever it may be. Just really embrace what is unique about you, because even in a niche, you can have like 20 different types of creators and everybody brings something to that. So just think about what you can bring to the niche, being yourself.
Yeah, that's great advice. And Glow, any final thoughts?
Exactly. Like always think about what you can bring, like if you can bring something different, because it will differentiate you from other creators, but also make sure that you make content that you would watch, that you would like want to watch, like what you want to see. Turns out maybe a lot of other people want to see it too. So like that helps me a lot in finding my content. Is like, why do I want to watch right now? Like, why would I want to see out there? And then I make it, and sometimes, most often than not, it works. Yeah.
Annisa, any final thoughts?
Yeah. So I was an art major, and what my professor used to always tell us is to walk away from the canvas. Just walk away, don't look at it, and then turn back around and look at it. And that way you can get a different perspective. And so that's my biggest takeaway, is to kind of like drown out the noise and like concentrate on like what you want and who you are as a person. Because if it's not authentic to who you are or what you do or your vibe or your energy, it's not going to translate into what you want for yourself, you know? So, and like I said earlier, when you walk in your purpose, like walking in your purpose, no matter what it is. And most of us didn't think that YouTube was going to be a part of that. Like I would probably say like most of us was like, we didn't think this was going to be a thing. But when you're walking in your purpose, it'll make room for you. And you have to like drown out everything else. I know that's difficult, but I promise you it kind of frees your mind from like, okay, this is what I have to do. I have to do these steps. No, like you have to do what's true to you and who you are. So, yeah.
I agree with all of this. And the only thing that I think I would add is that also make content you enjoy making, because the actual process of making that content needs to be enjoyable as well. So if you make something that you would love to watch, but like you hated making it, you're not going to be able to do it week after week after week after week after week after week for years. That's not going to happen. So make sure that it's content that you enjoy making as well. So yeah, I guess that is all I've got. Thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited to have gotten to connect with all of you. Everybody at home, hang on, I have something I'm supposed to say. I have a script. This is an accommodation. Thank you just for joining us, and go to the official VidCon Discord server if you want to keep the conversation going, maybe connect with each other and talk about what your niche is or what you want to start doing. Maybe find an accountability buddy so that you can, have somebody looking for that first video of yours. And so maybe you're more likely to do it. And check out the full agenda to get registered for some more VidCon Now sessions. Thanks again. Bye.